What's going on, everyone? So, the San Antonio Spurs going into this free agency, one of the things that I talked about very heavily that they need to address is the center position, right? They desperately need to solve the center position. Well, the San Antonio Spurs have officially solved the center position. They signed Luke Kornet, free agent center. Luke Kornet has agreed to a 4-year, $41 million deal with the San Antonio Spurs, sources tell ESPN. Key front court addition for the Spurs, who negotiated a contract tonight with Kornet's agent, Max Wietking of Gersh Sports. This is a great pickup for the Spurs, right? For being honest. Now, he's one of the guys that the Spurs were supposedly heavily targeting. He's one of those guys that I thought would fit right into Spurs culture. He'll be 30 going into next year, so they'll basically have him into 34. But his game and the way that he plays and operates, I don't think will be an issue in that regard. This, to me, is just a really good, solid veteran pickup acquisition for a guy to be your backup that has built a career as a backup, right? Literally. Like, I've seen people, what would he look like as a starter, all that stuff. It's kind of hard to take a guy that is a career backup. Like, literally, he is a career backup. The most games he has ever started in a season is 18 games. Last year for Boston was the second most he ever started, and it was 16 games. It's kind of hard to take a guy that's at most starting, 10 games a season on average, and now make him the full-time starter. So it just didn't make sense. And I don't even know if Luke Kornet would have wanted to do something like that, right? Where, you look at a team like the Spurs, it's like he gets to go there, versatile kind of two-way center, brings effort, energy. Like, you never question his efforts. You never question the type of player that he is. He rebounds well. He can knock down some shots. He can make some plays. Not like, Jokic out there, just wheeling and dealing. But he's a guy that I think will slot in beautifully in the Spurs system and operate as like kind of that guy. It's a guy you could slot alongside a Victor Wembanyama. I've talked about that, right? It'd be nice to kind of get a versatile center that you could slot in alongside Wemby, especially with Wemby wanting to stretch the floor and shoot some threes, right? Have a guy that you could put down low and kind of go with the double big version. A guy that can give you some defense, give you some offense, give you some energy and effort. And that's what you get with Luke Kornet. I think that this was an excellent pickup for Luke Kornet. I think this is a guy that really could do some things for the San Antonio Spurs. But let's get into the numbers here, right? So you look at last year. Played 73 games. 16 games started. As I mentioned, 18.6 minutes per game. So again, a career backup guy. 3.8 field goal attempts per game, 66.8%, so just under 67% from the field. He is not a guy that's going to stretch the floor. He's a guy that he's had some seasons where he did, like with the Knicks, 3-point range. He took 4 attempts, shot 35%. Knicks again, he shot 4 attempts, 36%. Chicago, 3 attempts, 28.7%. But since the 2020-2021 season, he's basically not taking threes. He's essentially been an interior presence. Maybe if you're the Spurs, you can kind of maybe see if he can kind of get back to not anything crazy, just 35%. Right? It'd be nice if he could stretch the floor a little bit. He's a guy that can knock down, kind of the mid-range stuff like that, but could he stretch the floor back to being, a serviceable three-point shooter? I mean, I don't think I'd want him taking 10 threes a game, but I wouldn't hate seeing him be a guy that, knocks down a handful of three, takes 3 threes, 2 threes, 2 or 3 threes a game at like a 35% clip. You gave me something like that, I think that'd be fun. I think that's something that, but even if he's not, right, if you just solely have him as an interior presence, again, that's fine. I'm more than happy to keep it that route. But 2-point percentage, 3.8 attempts, 67.5%, 67% EFG. Free throw shooting, he is a career 77% free throw shooter. He, on 1.3 attempts, was 69% last year. So I'd like to see him get back up. He was almost 91% the year before, but it was on 0.9 attempts. He's a career 0.8 game guy. Again, he's back up. That's getting 18 minutes a game. So he's probably not taking, 10 free throws a night. But rebounding, right? This is a guy that was 5.3 rebounds. He had as many offensive rebounds as he did defensive rebounds. He is an excellent offensive rebounder, which is something that I talked about, slotting him alongside a Victor Wembanyama. Have Victor Wembanyama he likes to shoot his threes. Be nice to have that interior center that can gobble up the boards, pause, and go and kind of, give you second chance points, kick back out, do those type of things, or finish around the rim, go back up, right? Put you in a good position in that regard, right? But he averaged 2.6 offensive rebounds, 2.7 defensive rebounds, and again, 5.3 rebounds in total, 1.6 assists, so just under 2 assists, half a steal, a full block, and 6 points per game. Now, you look at his per 36, right? Now, per 36 doesn't tell you everything, but it gives you a pretty good idea, right? Per 36, he would be a just under 12 point, 10 rebound, 3 assists, a full steal, and 2 blocks per game guy if he was to play like a full-time starter role. Now, this is a guy that's 7'1", 7'2", 250 pounds. So, again, gives you a guy that can be that interior presence. Big, strong, physical, right? Not shy from the contact. The guy that you can kind of, free throw, have him be at the free throw extended, kind of, wheeling and dealing a little bit. Again, not to the level of like a Jokic or anything like that, but just, again, a good quality veteran player that can come in, give you some veteran experience, give you a guy that title experience that's been a big piece, it's been a big part, that has played a role, knows what he needs to do. This is a guy that the Spurs clearly had in their sights and they wanted more than anybody. There were several reports that the Spurs were heavily targeting Luke Kornet, and then they signed him immediately. Like, that was clearly their guy. Right? There was talks about them, what about a Clint Capella and, these guys, right? But Luke Kornet seemed to be kind of the consensus thought. Like, hey, the Spurs are heavily after a Luke Kornet. They want to bring him in, and lo and behold, they get their guy, which, again, I think is a huge pickup. Now, I don't think the Spurs should be done. I think you need, again, try to kind of upgrade around the edges a little bit here if you want. Supposedly, they might bring back 2 of their own guys, but, I would like to can you bring in another, like, veteran piece? Even like a Gary Harris, kind of give you some shooting out on the perimeter, right? A guy that can slot in the 3, a guy that can come out, just... Again, I'd like to see, you got the young group, you got the young core. Could you get like a 3-and-D wing, and then, maybe another kind of experienced perimeter guy, maybe another 3-and-D guy that, you don't want to take away from your young guys, but, kind of just give you some guys with some experience that could kind of mentor some of these guys, put them in some shape. Obviously, the biggest need was the center position. That was the thing that they needed the most, was a guy in Luke Kornet. You got a guy in Luke Kornet that can now slot in at the center position, and you're good to go, right? So now you don't have to worry about, okay, well, because you're watching all these other centers are all falling off the board. I mean, even Clint Capella at the time of, recording this video, Clint Capella went to the Houston Rockets, right? You're seeing all these, all these players just kind of disappear off the board as far as like potential backup level centers. So it's good that the Spurs were able to find a guy, get a guy, land a guy that, can kind of solidify the center spot for you in the backup role that you can start in a pinch if you need to. If you're going up against, Memphis, right? And they got Zach Edey. You could throw Luke Kornet up against Zach Edey and then have Victor Wembanyama defending Triple J. Triple J just signed a new extension there. He's a guy that I would have loved to have the Spurs get. That's one of the guys that was like, oh, if he doesn't sign an extension, keep an eye on him. Go try to trade for him and acquire him. But again, This was, I think, the exact type of move you wanted to see from the Spurs. This was a Spurs type of move. You got him, like I said, basically, $10 million a year, 10 and some change a year. So I think that this is a good, you got him at good value. You didn't overpay where you maybe sign him to a 60-year deal or $60 million a year, or 4 years, $60 million. There we go. You didn't sign him to something crazy like that. Got him on a good price, got him on good value. Salary cap's going to keep increasing every year because you got to keep in mind, you're going to have to pay Wemby pretty soon. You have to start paying guys pretty soon. De'Aaron Fox is going to need a new contract. So to go and get a guy in a Luke Kornet that can solidify kind of that front court, I think is really good. I think this was a really good pickup and acquisition. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion. Pass question to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments. What do you think of the signing? Are you a fan of them bringing in Luke Kornet? Is he one of the guys that you wanted them to bring in? I've seen kind of, I haven't seen anybody be like, no, don't get, like, Luke Kornet's trash, don't get it. I haven't seen that. Usually whenever you talk about a guy, like, there's usually somebody that's like, oh, no, that guy's terrible. No, the consensus thought is like, hey, he is great. Go get him if you can. But what are your thoughts? Is he like your favorite? Is he the guy you were like, yes, that's the guy that I wanted to get a Luke Kornet to back up Victor Wembanyama, or was there somebody else? Was it Clint Capella? Whoever, whatever. I'd love to hear it either way, so let me know. Again, down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. So we enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one.